What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel once again. So in a previous video, I took a look at the Atomstack A30 Pro, and today we're going to be taking a look at the A30 Pro, which is their newest model. We'll also be taking a look at some of their accessories, like the F3 cutting panels, the AC1 camera, along with the R1 Pro Rotary tool. So I'll go ahead, I'll get these all unboxed, we'll see what's inside, and let's check this out. So I got this all taken out of the box and laid out on the table, and here you can see all the pieces that it comes with. It has all the pieces to put together the actual assembly for itself for the laser, with all the little bags labeled as step 1, step 2, step 3. It comes with some spare lenses. This beastly laser right here, which if you can see, it says 33 to 36 watts is the max power. The control board along with the screen, some testing materials, a cutting mat to place underneath, a nice manual that gives all the instructions on how to put this together, some extra tools and hardware in case you're going to need them, safety goggles and all the cords and everything you're going to need, along with the air assist, which you can see right in this top right corner, that has the tubing and everything for that. So I'll go ahead, I'll get this all put together, and then I'll open up the other boxes and the other accessories and see what's inside those. But first, I want to free up some space, so I'll put this all together first. So I'll be back right after that. Okay, so I got this all put together, and before I open up the other box of accessories, I will just run a test on this first just to make sure that everything's working and whatnot. But in order to put this together, it only took me about 20 minutes. There was just 2 screws on each side to get the frame put together. I had to run the XY axis through the bars, run the belt up over, and bolt on the feet, which you can see right here, and attach all the cables. And that's pretty much it. It didn't really take long. As you can see on top, it does have the on-off switch, a reset button, a place for the TF card, the USB, the power adapter, the emergency cutoff switch in case you need to use that for whatever reason, and the magnetic screen. The laser module itself was easy to attach. It just slides right onto this bracket, and you can tighten it with this little screw at the top. Connecting the air assist was simple. There is a cord that actually provides it power to the machine itself along with the air assist. So I can turn it on and off if I want to use it or if I don't want to use it, and I can do it separately. So I'll go ahead, I'll get this powered on. I'm just going to use one of their scrap pieces of wood to try out one of their test files. Here on the screen you can see it booting up, and that didn't take long. I can go into carve, and it gives me the option for a butterfly or a dog. I think I'll do the 2mm plywood dog. So I can move the laser module to where I want it to be. I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to do a contour scanning, and that gives me an idea of where it's going to be. Now I will need to adjust the focus on this, so I'll do that when this is done. And all you need to do is take their little metal bracket here, and that's their focus. So now that I got that focused, I can just go in and go to contour scanning again, and I can see the little line and the dot to where it's going to be cutting. And I find it easier to move the metal plate underneath if I need to adjust it instead of trying to move the wood piece itself. So I'll run it one more time just to make sure that I got it where I want it. And right about there seems okay. Now for this first test, I'm not exactly sure what the settings are used on this file, so I really have no idea. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna turn the air assist on. And I won't turn it to max, I'll turn it to about 3/4. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit the play button. How many passes? I'm just gonna do 1. I'll click yes. And it will begin cutting. So since that is complete, I will turn off the machine along with the air assist. That way you don't hear that in the background. We'll move this out of the way and let's take a look. So I'll get up close, take a look. And there is no charring on the front. However, the back does have some charring, but that's okay. Again, looking at the outline of this, I think that came out perfect. So now that I know that this machine is working just fine, I think it's focused properly, everything is working good, I'll go ahead, we'll open up the other accessories and let's try those out. So one thing I'd like to add is that this did put out quite a bit of heat. And as you can see, I tried wiping off all this, but it actually did leave an engraving into this aluminum sheet. And you can see the marking on the back, and it actually made it stick to the tablecloth I have on the table. So this first box I'll open up is the F3 cutting panels, which actually should help so I don't have that problem cutting into the metal. So here's all the pieces for this honeycomb bed. And once again, I will get this all set up off camera and we'll come right back once I get that done. All right, so I got this honeycomb bed all put together and I feel like this actually took longer to put together than the machine. I mean, this did take probably about 20 minutes or so just to try and figure it out. But it wasn't actually that bad. It's just each one of these are individual pieces and then across is individual pieces. So you had to kind of slide them in, screw the ends in, put each one in, run a bar, well, that you can't really see, through it, and then screw the end caps in. So, and it does have little tie downs. It did come with extra pieces, which is for the frame connector. If you have the extension on the machine and you want to have a bigger one, they have a piece for that so you can actually connect it. But since I don't need that, I won't be using those pieces. So I'll go ahead and I'll get the rotary all set up as well, along with the camera, and we'll be back right after that. All right, so I got the camera mounted, which is right here, and I haven't calibrated this just yet. I just wanted to get it hooked up, secured, and good to go. And also down here, we have the rotary attachments. Now, just taking a look at these are really nice. Each one has its own piece. You don't have to undo anything or swap out any cables or anything. You can adjust the chuck how you want it. You can easily loosen these, move it in if you need to. As for the roller, Also, again, it has its own motor. You can adjust the spacing in between, along with the extensions if you need them, which are adjustable as well. It also comes with all the little chuck attachment pieces if you need to clamp something down a little bit bigger, along with the feet for the machine itself if you need to raise it up. I'll get the rotary attachments though out of the way for now, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. But let's get the camera calibrated, and then let's give this a test and see how that works first. So here we are over in Lightburn. I'm just going to connect to the Atomstack A30 Pro. You get it homed automatically, and we click on the camera. And if we want to calibrate this, we just go into the Calibrate Camera Lens. Click on this PH720. We want the standard lens, and we're going to do the full calibration, and then we'll click next. Now, I'm just going to show you this really quickly, and I'm not going to go through everything, but basically you just put down the squares of cardboard and the little dotted piece of cardboard that has a little grid on it, and you just go through the steps and follow them, and that'll walk you right through it. So now that I have the camera all calibrated, I can go ahead and I can just place these pieces of cardboard anywhere on the bed that I like, and I'll head over into Lightburn and I'll show you how this works. So here over in Lightburn, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna grab this little Batman symbol, and now you can see that I have them placed on this board kind of just wherever. I can update this overlay, and now I can place the Batman symbol just kind of over like that. We'll rotate it. Do something like that. I can go ahead and I can copy it. Let's paste it over here. And let's just move it just right about there. So I do just have this set at 6,000 speed at 20% power, and I'm just going to do a line. So if I hit frame, you can see that it's kind of going to frame the entire thing. If I click on both of these and click frame, now it's kind of going to do an outline of both of them. So I think that's looking just fine to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit start. And if I click on update overlay, now it's kind of hard to see. I'll zoom in, and it is off just a little bit on that one and that one as well, but it's pretty close, and I could adjust these, the X shift and the Y shift, just a little bit to make it perfect. But I think for the sake of this test and demonstration, it works just fine, and it might be off by like a millimeter, and I could recalibrate it and do that, but I'm not going to, just for this, as I think it's pretty accurate on where it sits on the card. So now if I take a look at these cards, and you can see that's pretty accurate on where I had that set up. So I think to me that's a success. So let's move on. So now that we know that the camera works just fine and calibrated pretty closely, I went ahead and I just grabbed this scrap piece of wood I had laying around, and we're going to try and just do some engraving and some cutting on this. So I'll just place that on there. And I'll head back into Lightburn and let's set this up. So over here in Lightburn, I just grabbed this image of BMW symbol, and let's just move it up into this corner, right over there. And for the speed, we'll keep that at 6,000, and we'll run this at 40% power. Actually, let's bump this up to 8,000. Over scanning, fine. I'll just leave that alone. I'm not going to mess with that right now. I can right click, I can preview this. It says it'll take a minute, so let's go ahead. I'll click frame. And I do already have this focused to the height of the wood that I needed. And I'll go ahead and I'll click start. So taking a look at that, I think that came out just great. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to cut this out. I'm going to change some settings, and we'll see what kind of power this puts out when I do that. So let's take a look. And oh yeah, that cut it out real easily. Just fine. It did leave a little bit of charring on the back, and I didn't use any air assist on this, but I will on this next one. But I can grab their little gauge that they sent. Let's see what this actually comes in at. And this is roughly 5 millimeters. So I'll go ahead, I'll put this board back on. We're gonna run another test with the same circle, but we're gonna bump it up to maybe 1,000 millimeters per minute, and I'll use the air assist and see if that still cuts through it just fine. So I got this all framed up. I do have this set to 1,000 millimeters per minute at 100% power. I'm gonna go ahead, just turn on this air assist, and I'll turn it on full blast, and let's click start. So it didn't quite make it through. So let's try that one more time, maybe to 700 millimeters per minute, and we'll try that. So let's see if that cut through it. And you can see the marking. Pretty close. It did miss a little tiny bit, but overall it did cut it out. So I think probably about 650 is probably going to be about as good as I can get in one pass at 5 millimeters thick. So I do have a piece of this poplar wood that is much thicker. This is roughly 19 mil. So we're going to see if we can cut through this and see how many passes it takes to get through this. So let's try that out. So back over in Lightburn, I just drew out this little circle again, and we'll just kind of place it halfway over so we can see how far down it goes. And I do have this set to 100 millimeters per minute at 100% power. And we'll just do one pass at first to see how it does, and we'll adjust as needed. So let's take a look. And that made it almost all the way through with just one pass. We're going to try that again. I'm just going to bump it down to 50 millimeters per minute instead of 100, because I think that might be able to cut it all the way through. All right, did that make it through? It did. It did. So there is the charring on the inside, but on the outside, it's really minimal. So yeah, at 50 millimeters per minute at 100% power, it cut through this almost 20 mil piece of poplar wood, pretty much no problem. So now that we know that it cuts out 20 mil wood, I've never tried engraving some rock, so I went in my backyard and just grabbed this rock that I found. I tried to find one that was pretty flat. So let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. According to their settings, it says you should do it around 6,000 millimeters per minute, around 60% power, 80% power. So that's what I'm going to try and do, and we're going to see how this comes out. So let's take a look. And it is on there. It's just really hard to see because the rock itself is pretty light. But it is on there. I'll see if I can find a different rock that's a darker rock, and maybe that'll show up a little bit better. So let's take a look at that one, and I can already tell that looks way better than before. And I think that came out great. So yes, this will engrave rock just fine. So now that we were able to find out that it does cut through wood just fine, it'll do some rock just fine. Let's try the rotary attachments and see how those work. So for this, I'll use the chuck attachment, and we're just gonna try this stainless steel ring. And for this, all I need is these 3 little pieces right here that will connect. And then just tighten it. One thing I really like about this chuck piece is that it does have the degrees on the side, so when I adjust it, I can see that, oh, okay, I want it at a 30-degree angle, and I can adjust that to how I want it. But for this test, I'm just gonna keep it at 0, so it's straight. So in order to get this hooked up, I just needed to plug in the white cord. One end goes into the chuck itself, and the other one goes in to where the motor was. So back over in Lightburn, I'm just gonna be using my channel name. So I'm just gonna get this roughly into place. And it's not going to be perfect because I won't really be using the camera for this because I will have to adjust the laser manually. But about like that looks right. So if I go into this ring, I'm just gonna set the speed based off of their settings off of their website. They say for brushed stainless steel, 1500 millimeters per minute at a max power of 80. And I did set the line interval to 0.08. So we'll go okay, we'll hit frame. Everything looks right, and we'll go ahead and we'll click start. So that has finished. I'll push this out of the way. And if I have this even, I don't want to move this left or right. I want to just move just this. So if I want to do another one, I can easily just put it right back into place. And I think that turned out awesome. I had that nice and centered. I think that's perfect. So there you saw how the rotary attachment works. I think it works really well. It has some really nice features to it. Now, I'm not gonna go over all of that in general and both rotary tools because it's just gonna take forever, and that'll actually be a separate video if you guys are interested in that. But I'm gonna run one more test on this. We're gonna do an engraving on a piece of wood again, and we're gonna see how that comes out and go from there. All right, so here was the final piece of engraving I did on wood, just the Mona Lisa. And I think this came out good. I think it could have been a little bit better if I adjusted some settings and used a different type of wood, as this isn't really the best. But it worked, and I think it came out just fine. So I'll go over a few things about this machine, and overall, I think this is fantastic. First off, I think everything came really well packaged, from the machine itself, to the camera, to the rotary attachments, and the honeycomb bed. The machine itself was very easy to put together. Now, I have put plenty of these together in the past, so it really wasn't a struggle for me, but the directions were pretty easy to follow. There wasn't really anything that I got stuck on. So yeah, everything was fairly simple to put together, and for this machine itself, it probably only took me about 25 minutes. The camera, that was very easy to put together. The rotary attachments, those are already technically assembled. You just need to attach different pieces depending on what you're going to be engraving or cutting. The honeycomb bed probably gave me the biggest struggle, which wasn't really a struggle, I would say, but it did take a little bit of time just because each piece you have to individually put them on the slide, run the little metal tube through, and then attach the ends and put all the little slats in. So the honeycomb bed did take some time, but overall it really wasn't that bad. So the laser itself, I think, is fantastic. It is a beast. This was able to cut through this almost 20 mil piece of poplar wood with one pass. This is 19 mil, so pretty close, and I think if I just did one more millimeter and made it a little bit bigger, it would be just fine. It engraved the stainless steel super quickly, and it came out dark. I didn't adjust anything, and this was really fast. This was done at 1500 millimeters per minute at, I think, only 80% power, so I didn't even have to put this all the way up. I was able to engrave the rock that you saw. Now, if you are engraving rock, it will make a difference depending on the type of rock that you are engraving. And as you can see here, it is kind of dark. So I will have to make some adjustments, and you probably want your rocks to be pretty flat if you are going to engrave them. As you can see, these aren't really the flattest, so low spots are going to come out a little bit differently. Same with on this one. Once it got to the top of the head, it's lower, but it still did a pretty good job of getting to it. The rotary attachments, I think, are fantastic. I think this is probably the nicest ones I have used. I am able to change this from 0 degrees all the way to 180. I can easily tighten it so it stays in place. And I really like how each one, the chuck and the roller, have their own separate motors, so you don't need to undo anything, swap out belts or anything like that. So definitely a bonus right there. I like that the rotary attachments came with the extension feet to put on the machine itself, so you can easily raise this up to fit either one underneath. And I believe even if you don't have the Atomstack, or if you have a different model, these will still work on the other models, along with probably some other machines as well. Even if you just needed to set them on top, this would work instead of clamping it down. I was really impressed with the camera and how well it worked. Now, it did take a little bit of time just to get it all calibrated properly and set up, but once I did that, I think it worked great. I was only off by maybe a millimeter, and I can make some adjustments to fine tune it. But for simple, quick positioning, if you just need to get it in the ballpark of an area, I think it works fantastic. Now, if you are going to be doing some fine detail and you do need it precise, I would still recommend probably doing it by eye and making sure you frame it and verifying that it's right before you hit start. But for the camera itself, if I just wanted to toss down a piece of cardboard like that and engrave it, I can position the image or anything I wanted how I wanted to without having to move this each time and try and get it just to where I needed it according to Lightburn or Laser Gerbil, depending on which program you're using. I like that this is very easy to mount onto the machine, and even if I'm not using this machine, I can take this off, move it to any of my other machines, because it does have a nice big clamp. So if I wanted to mount this to my X Tool or the CR Falcon or any of the machines that I have, I can very easily just unhook this, hook it up to another one, and recalibrate it like that. I like that this is very easy to focus this laser. You just need this piece right here, and you can do it this way or this way, depending on if you have the lens guard on there. As you can see, the little photo right there. I think the honeycomb bed works great. Now, it isn't technically a honeycomb, but they call it that. But as you can see, because of the power of this laser, this went through the wood and actually engraved this piece of aluminum, and you can even see the outline on the back. So I highly recommend getting the bed for it underneath. That way you don't have this, and it actually heated it up so much that it tore off a piece of my tablecloth underneath because it got so hot. I do like a lot of the features that this machine offers right out of the box. Like the touchscreen, that's very simple to use. It has a spot for the TF card. It has the emergency cutoff switch, a reset button, and you are able to use this over Wi-Fi via the app if you want to as well. I do like that this is fairly lightweight. This really doesn't weigh much at all. So definitely a plus compared to some other machines that I've used that are pretty bulky and thick, and this is pretty simple. It's not huge. It is 400 by 400, so there is plenty of space to do most things that you're going to be doing. And there is extensions if you need to make it bigger and need more room. So overall, I think this machine is absolutely fantastic. The laser is just a beast. All the accessories, the camera, the rotary attachments, the air assist, all of them work really, really well. And even if you already have a laser engraving machine and you just wanted to pick up some of the accessories, I highly recommend the camera, and I highly recommend the rotary attachments, as this is probably the nicest one I have used yet, and it works really, really well. I will put a link down in the description though to where you can pick up all of these accessories along with the machine itself. If there is something you'd like me to go into detail more on, like the camera itself or the rotary attachments, leave a comment down below and let me know, and I'll see what I can do about putting a video together specifically on that. But that's going to be it for this video, everybody. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Ring the bell. Get notified of all the new videos that come out. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.